Well, hello everybody. It's a great privilege to speak to you today on the occasion of Through the Eye of the Needle, a celebration of drug user activism. Well, regardless of people's personal views on illicit drugs, the reality is that millions of people globally use drugs on a regular basis. But ongoing criminalization has forced many of them underground and away from health services, from information and from support. And as a result, people who use drugs often become isolated from their families, their friends, and from the rest of society. Well, this long-term social isolation, coupled with high levels of stigma and discrimination, can lead to serious problems, including HIV, hepatitis C, and TB infection, imprisonment, unemployment, family and community breakdown, and in many cases, premature death. And I'm heartened to see that the silence about the harms of repressive drug policies has finally been broken. These policies are ineffective. They violate basic human rights, they generate violence, and they expose individuals and communities to unnecessary risks. What's more, they have not reduced the availability of illicit drugs or the power of criminal organizations, whilst ruining the lives of millions who have been arrested and incarcerated. Thankfully, networks of drug users are increasingly active and are raising their voices to promote human rights, advocate for harm reduction approaches, and push for more humane drug policies at all levels. Their organizations are also leading the fight to end the ongoing criminalization of people who use drugs, and even the use of the death penalty for drug-related offences. Drug users who are leading these efforts should be applauded as they work in difficult environments and they face extreme levels of stigma, discrimination, and adversity. But their investment of energy, commitment, and courage is now finally paying off. Drug user representatives are at the key policy tables, and while the fight for significant reform continues, there is little doubt that the tide is slowly turning. Here is how I personally think we can work together to support change in our current approach to drugs. Let's put an end to abusive practices carried out in the name of treatment, such as forced detention, forced labour, and physical or psychological abuse that contravene basic human rights standards. We need governments to respond to the fact that HIV risk practices resulting from repressive drug control policies and under-resourcing of evidence-based harm reduction approaches are the main issue driving the HIV epidemic in many regions of the world. We must also end the criminalization, marginalization, and stigmatization of people who use drugs through changes to laws, policies, programs, and practices at the international, regional, and local levels. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, given the focus of tonight's event, we must work in full and meaningful partnership with people who use drugs and their networks. With our support, they can have a genuine voice in the process of drug law reform and in addressing their health and rights. As advocates and reformers, we must ensure that voice is heard. Please join this important effort to improve conditions for people who use drugs. It will also improve society as a whole. Thank you for your time, and I wish all of you a productive meeting and a wonderful evening. Thank you. Cheers.